lucha-masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week, our team discusses news and events from the past week, covering Mexico-based promotions like AAA and CMLL and top independents throughout Mexico, along with luchador-related news from WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, MLW, Impact Wrestling, and more. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the podcast network are available on luchacentral.com and major podcast platforms such as iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbay, and Speaker. I'm Miranda Morales, one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. And I said team. Yes, there is no I in team, but there's one in Miranda. Either way, I have two fabulous co-hosts. We do this show together. We bring our knowledge to you, the Lucha Libre fans. First up on that, I'm bringing in the dashing one, Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing, Miranda?
I am doing well. It is actually raining here in Arizona today, so big surprise. Yes.
Yeah.
It's what we call out here monsoon season. It rains for multiple hours a day, and then streets get flooded and all of that kind of interesting stuff when, it never rains where you live. Speaking of rain, it almost made me think I could live where this gentleman lives. But then I realized it got, maybe too gloomy for him. Who are we talking about? Who am I talking about? Who? I'm talking about Brendan Barr.
I see what you did there. I really, yeah. I appreciate that.
I try. Every week is harder. Every time I do this, I'm thinking, man, I really got to pull something out of nowhere. I really did have a thought of what, oh my gosh, is this what Seattle looks like a bit? Just rainy, kind of dark, lots of clouds. Maybe that's just, the image a lot of people have in their minds about Seattle. But, it's been nice. It wasn't 100 degrees today. So I'll take it. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. So I was listening to the intro there, and we were talking about the luchamasks.com up in the beginning there, and I wanted to just congratulate them. They sold out of the Pentagon Venom masks and the restock again. So
yeah, those went so fast.
Yeah,
people love those. I have a few, and everywhere I wear them, somebody asks me, where did you get that mask?
Right?
Yeah, even if they don't know what it is, they love it.
Exactly. I get a lot
that's why they sold out. It's because Dusty's been repping them all over the place. You should get some commission off that, Dusty.
Yeah, I hope so. Any Kansas purchases tie back to me, I'm sure.
Right. Tell them the Lucha Central team sent you.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, we need to get our own promo code. We got to talk with the bosses about that. If we could get our own little promo code for lucha-masks.com, I think we'd be making, a little bit of commish off of that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't necessarily want to take money out of the pockets of because those are all licensed through the wrestlers. So even that El Santo mask that you can get there is licensed through the family, and
that's
they
the one
get
I need
some
now.
of that money. Yeah. Sorry, I just spent more of your money,
cool.
Dusty.
Yeah, no, I already had designs on buying it. I had to have it. It's so cool.
It's once I saw, I knew that they were all being licensed, like either through Pro Wrestling Revolution or the wrestlers themselves. But once I saw the announcement that Santos family sponsored that one, I was like, okay, there's the next one I'm buying too. So
yeah.
It's fantastic. It's kind of a strange thing about this year that, thinking about where it's all taken us and how it's affected pro wrestling and lucha libre, is one of those nice things that the families and the luchadors themselves could benefit from, something that really has come out of, a pandemic, that's something that's come out of something fairly negative. Some cool creativity has come out of it, and something that has really changing the game of lucha libre for non-wrestling fans and wrestling fans alike. So it's very cool. Big congratulations to lucha-masks.com.
All right.
Yeah. And I mean, I talked earlier about all of the news that we attempt to cover on a weekly basis. This week, especially, we got a lot of news to cover. We have WWE, we have Impact, and we even have some AEW news that Brendan in particular is very close to this story. So I'm very excited to learn more about this, to get more into it. But you're going to have to wait, because our signature opening segment, speaking of Brendan, is discussing the road back to shows. Brendan, you have some more announcements, pretty big announcements as well, regarding the road back to shows in Mexico.
And of course I have thrown my notes into the wrong place because I got all excited. There we go. Road back
I feel that way when I talk about masks too.
I wanted to make sure I had I had a couple other things open to the right page, and unfortunately, in the process of that, I closed out my other notes. That's amateur move, folks. Don't close out your notes. Okay, so road back to shows. That's where we're at. We're gonna start with the easy news. Mexico City is still orange. It is now the earliest that it will be changed to yellow, which is the minimum requirement for shows to happen at all, and those will probably be empty arena shows, would be August 7th, and then 2 weeks after, so August 21st, September 4th. The probability of that after from that point on, the probability goes to they're going to start looking for places other than Mexico City to host shows if they have to wait that much. According to a few speculators out there, I agree with that, boys.
Yeah, I do too. It's 6 months. I think it's inevitable they'll try to go wherever they can to hold shows.
Yeah, I mean, as we're going to talk about, other people have held shows in other areas, so there's certainly ways that they can do it.
Yeah, it's not without precedent.
So one way though that I wanted to talk about was there's a new streaming service that's available for us to watch. So Mas Lucha has started the streaming service. I have a little bit of a review of it later, of the actual service and stuff, but that is available on there. So we will be definitely talking about that soon. But for the bigger news that we were just alluding to, AAA has started announcing plans. First and foremost, Triple Mania is indefinitely postponed. They're probably waiting until they know what the future of shows with fans is going to look like in the Mexico City area. But for the time being, they're focusing on they think what will be a new and unique way to make a little bit of money and have access to the fans. They are doing what they call auto lucha. We talked about this on previous shows. Kevin has mentioned it when doing the Mass Republic Minute on Conan show. This is drive-in theater with wrestling. This is going to happen in the Six Flags Mexico. They have, which already has kind of arrangements to have a large number of cars and a theater, natural amphitheater. So it's going to fit really well. It's going to be a very interesting idea. I'm really excited to see the visuals for this.
Oh, me too. I think the presentation is going to be amazing, if nothing else.
Yeah, picture like the those fighting rings from all the action movies with headlights going.
Oh yeah, circling the ring. Yeah.
That's I'm go ahead.
They did provide some pictures as far as some depictions of what it could look like when they make these announcements on social media. It's even part of the story that they have on ESPN Mexico. And so that's just the visual as to, what it could look like is very, very cool.
Yeah, the visuals are extremely cool. And I'm glad you mentioned the ESPN Mexico thing because that is a thing that I'm discovering more and more as we're covering this. That ESPN Mexico loves to cover lucha news, and that's to those of us coming from an American background. That's kind of surprising because ESPN hasn't been as accepting up here of wrestling as a source of sports news for a long time. So I'm still investigating whether that's something that's recent, like it is here, or if they've been doing it. I'm more of the line that they've probably been giving news, at least on the big companies, for a lot longer than we have.
Yeah, I haven't been following the Mexican ESPN website for very long, but for at least the last 3 or 4 months, at least since the podcast started, they've covered quite a bit of wrestling.
Yeah. My minimum requirement up until I started this job was being able to speak Spanish, but I have since discovered the joys of Google Translate. So,
Well, it goes back to how lucha libre in Mexico is covered as more of a sport, even though it is, professional wrestling. The way that it's treated there has always had more of a sports feel than in, the United States. Whereas we have, say the WWE, it was a big deal for ESPN to start covering WWE, and in turn, they did start covering a little bit more, other promotions like AEW, the relationship with Evolve and some of the other independents. That was a very big deal because of the thought process that wrestling is not a quote unquote, real sport, and it's on the same website as all these other sports. Whereas in Mexico, the luchadores were treated like, like athletes, and in the media and, in journalism as well, they were always treated, I believe, in kind of on par with other athletes. So I agree with Brendan. I believe that this is something that has been probably more typical of ESPN Mexico than of, ESPN in the United States. And I think it's the beautiful thing about lucha libre is that the way that it's perceived within the culture is fairly different, and it is pro wrestling, but they are recognized as athletes.
Yeah, and it's also very much part of their culture. So an ESPN would be remiss to not have the chance to get that easy audience grab by talking about something that so much of Mexico is talking about and hungry for more information on.
But
go ahead.
No, I was. Yeah.
That was actually when I was a kid. What kind of smartened me up to wrestling was the fact that they didn't have the results on the news or like in the newspapers after pay-per-views. Like I wondered about that. So I love that they do that in Mexico and help kind of keep that part of everything alive for people. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, I'd love that too. But yes, Miranda, we can get back to the road shows.
I wanted to go back to Auto Lucha real quick because we had talked about it in the American sense. It has been, other promotions have been trying to do that. I don't know how successful it has been. I've seen some things here and there on social media, but I think this is really going to be the largest scale of an Auto Lucha show in the world. So,
Absolutely,
that, too, is going to be fascinating that it's going to be done to this scale because, on the American side, that is truly like, who knows? You know what? We did have that at NXT, we had that backlot brawl type of match with with Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole. I feel like that's kind of a similar tone, but that's if, like an AEW put a whole show together, like that. So I think the scale of this for such a large promotion like AAA is a very big deal that they're going to explore this avenue. And I know in comparison, CMLL has been very adamant that they're not going to run any shows at all, and wouldn't explore something like this. So also to see kind of how just the opposite ways that these two promotions, the two biggest lucha promotions in Mexico, are handling this is, to me, very fascinating.
It is all very fascinating. To another point you were alluding to, the AAA is saying that they want to have multiple shows in a day of this auto lucha. So it would be a case of they would set up the ring, have a show, have like a little bit of a break, have another show. So lots of people had opportunity to do this, which would put that in more of a category like what CMLL normally does, where they have a dedicated place to go see lucha, and you have more of a chance to do that. But even then, CMLL kind of in the past few years has been more about one show on Friday, one show on Saturday, that sort of thing. So it's still a big exploration. This is all very exciting. And there was a big press conference for it on Monday, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I didn't write down the day.
Tuesday.
Didn't write down the day. But it was a Zoom conference where they were talking about the future of AAA shows and how they thought this was going to be a big deal. I wanted to give a shout out to the dogs of AAA because they were part of the interview too.
Love it.
Love that part. That's how you know it was Mexico.
Well, that's how you know it's 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is. Dogs are now part of every meeting.
Everything.
Right.
I love it.
Yes. Also, though, we were on the announcements that we were getting, CML has kind of bent a little bit. They said they will consider doing empty arena shows when Mexico City reaches yellow, which would be the time that they could theoretically do empty arena shows. They didn't say to how many or what they would be doing with them, but they did say that is part of the plan because it seems to be taking so long to get back. So we might be seeing some CMLL in the next few weeks if we're lucky.
Oh, that'd be exciting. It's been so long.
Yeah.
Aside from the little Informa videos, and all they do is just kind of get you excited for wrestling.
Oh, it's the worst. I mean, I get all excited. I'm like, oh, and they still have that person, and they want to talk to them. And then I realize, but I'm not going to see them do any matches anytime soon because Mexico City is still orange. But if anybody from CMLL is listening, I listen to your Informas every week, and I get excited, and we are all excited to have you back wrestling when it's safe to do so. Speaking of when it's safe to do show, the IWRG has also listed that they want to do shows, but they are very definitely waiting until they're cleared because they've already gotten their little slap on the wrist once. So they have publicly said that that's the same. They want to be on a similar plan, and they're looking to do shows as soon as possible. And then I have another just random announcement because I follow luchadors on Instagram and Twitter. There is a show in Nashville called Lucha Mania for July 25th. Wow.
Yes, I saw that on social media as well. Yeah. Just the flyer, though.
Just the flyer, which has Super Crazy is really the only big name on it. And I don't know how he's planning on getting to Nashville because I believe he's still in Mexico, but he's on the flyer. He's pushing it out on his on all of his social media. So he's at the very least pretending like he's going to make it. So keep your ears open, I guess. If I find out how to watch it without getting to Nashville, I will probably be watching that just to let people hear about what's going on.
Yeah, that'd be exciting.
And that's what I've got for our road to shows this week.
All right. Now, last week we didn't have any indie roundup news, so I couldn't play this new intro music we have, but now we do, so I'm very excited. And a big shout out to our own Dashing Dusty, who created this, lovely song for all of you to listen. So let us introduce the indie roundup.
Wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you.
I feel
it was
so
fun
much
to
more,
record.
so much more official now. I have my own little intro music.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a lot to talk about this, but so DTU had their pool party event. Several belts and wrestlers wound up in the pool. I didn't get to see this. So fans that are listening, we had this discussion. I don't know a lot about WhatsApp, and I don't have a lot of good ways to send money to Mexico. Apparently, most of them. I wasn't able to figure out how to watch this one because I could not get WhatsApp or non-PayPal methods to them. It was going to be inexpensive. So people that have tips for that, just go ahead and fire them off to me. I will happily listen to them, even if they start with, geez, you're dumb. It's this really that easy, because I'm sure it is. But so we do have some results. These results, I believe, have been posted on Lucha Central as well. The first match, you had multiple tag teams going against each other. You had Brazo Celestial, Brazo de Oro Jr., against Arrow Panther and Fight Panther Jr., and Drolux and Moria. And Brazo Celestial and Brazo de Oro Jr. wound up on top on that. Then you had another multi-person event with Shun Skywalker, Pesadilla Yoshioka, Blaze, Grand Cobra, Dragon Suicida, and Brazo Cibernetico Jr. Shun Skywalker came out on top on that. We had Blackfire, Princesa Azul, Samurai Jr., Diosa Quetzal, Kevin, and Tiberion. I mean, that's some crazy branding right there, to just call yourself Kevin. I think that's
and Kevin.
Kevin. That was actually,
who's that? Oh, that's Kevin.
Kevin. That was actually a 6-person event with Blackfire, Princesa Azul, and Samurai Jr. on one team, Diosa Quetzal, Kevin, and Tiburon on the other, with Blackfire, Princesa Azul, and Samurai Jr. getting the win. And then we had a tag team match, Crazy Boy and Crazy King against Avorto and Cheneke. I'm sorry, I apologize. Some of these names I did not practice very much. Crazy Boy and Crazy King got the win on that one. And then the main event, we had Camouflage Stuka Jr. against Keleth and Negro Navarro. And unfortunately for me, Negro Navarro's team did not win. But that's 2 big wins against big names for Camouflage in the last 2 DCU events. So congratulations there. As you are that's definitely someone to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, he's on his way up.
So that was DTU. They did have belts and people going in the pool at times, but I didn't really have the details on who did that. So I really want to see YouTube highlights later, because
I believe Avorto threw the title into the pool after their match. After Crazy Boy and Crazy King won, he threw the title into the pool.
Nice. I mean, you've got to do that. There's a pool right there.
Oh, yeah. It's so cool. It's like the old spring break shows, like yeah, I love it. And I think their next pay-per-view is supposed to be in a bar, and it's going to have a bar fight. Is the Cantina Extrema for the main event.
That kind of marketing just sets it up to be something that is must watch.
All of these themed bouts that DTU has been doing they just have great visuals, like the ranch one with the blue sky behind the ring had the great visuals. The ring being near the water for this pool party one, just great. So whoever is doing their marketing and branding is really on point, especially to make these smaller shows have a little more punch and feel to them right now with COVID going on, so you can have a smaller crowd but still make it feel like something really special is going on. And then we get to the ladies tournament that Mas Supremo was hosting. Miranda, do you remember how to say? Didn't even want to attempt to say the Spanish full name for this.
Let me look it up. La Torneo Mas Suprema.
There we go. Okay, I could have said that. I thought it was more complicated than that. I need to make
that. I had to look it up and see what the full. That's what I understood the title. Or it was just
right.
Yeah.
So I was misreading things and thought it was longer than that. So this is why.
But it's always good, I'm always happy. Torneo Suprema en la lucha. But
yeah. So we discussed this setup before. There were 8 ladies. This is a brand new streaming service. This is really one of the only big deal things that's on there right now. It's not very much to get the service, but day of, there were a lot of problems. I watched the same promo videos for about 4 hours before anything started.
Oh, no.
That sounds awful.
No, sir.
I mean, I feel like it helped me learn some Spanish, and
that's always a benefit.
Yeah, I will now recognize any of these 8 ladies as long as they're in a reasonable approximation of the outfit they wore in those promos. I will recognize them probably in a crowd right now because I've seen a lot of them. There were some issues partway through where the service stuttered. In the middle of a very exciting match, but that is in the write-up that's on the luchacentral.com right now. He was Eric, who was writing that up, was a lot more dramatically impacted by that than I was. I think because I'd already watched 4 hours worth of promos that I just didn't care about a little bit of blackness at that point. It just seemed to par for the course. But so we started with I broke down the bracket last time. We had Dolce Sexy and Baby Love was the first match out. This match, I have handwritten notes on this, so I'm pulling that. This match started off with Dolce Sexy kind of beating up the younger they have a lot of, from what I can see, they have a lot of similar aspects to their look and their personas, but from what I was gathering, Dolce kept calling her things like little sister or she was treating her like a younger child. It was this one was a little slower moving with Dolce on top for most of it. There was a really kind of a very short spot in the middle where Baby Love got in some offense, and then there was a whole lot more chin locks and keys going on. Towards the end of the match, like Sexy kind of looked like she was just doing promo class at about 3/4, but you did get a nice power bomb off the top rope for the finish and the 1, 2, 3. Not at all surprising, obviously, because we were pretty well discussing that we think that Sexy is probably going to win this.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, a decent match. Then
she was working heel for this tournament, right?
Yeah. She was very definitely the heel for the whole of the tournament.
I think she works much better as a heel than as an inspirational character. So that makes sense.
Although her mic spots still make it sound like she has characteristics with Seth Rollins, in my opinion, where she's doing heel, but she's trying to talk like she's the role model. So
that's cool, especially given, it suits her, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. At least from what I'm gathering. Again, I look forward to the internet telling me how wrong I am, but that was what I was picking up on. So then we had Reina Dorada and Lolita for the next match. This one started off a lot faster. There was a lot more back and forth. The two of them, it was more difficult for me to tell who was working if anybody was working Rudo or if this was a technico encounter. It took place almost all in the middle of the ring with very little cheating going on. There was a spot where lucha fans are well aware that the luchadors love to do chops to the point of nearly stopping the action just so they can chop each other back and forth. And there was a great spot where both these ladies were on their knees just going back and forth, giving it their all with the chops. Eventually, Lolita was able to put the lock on Reina Dorada and get the win. So, I didn't have a lot of emotional notes on this one because by the time I kind of was figuring out who I really liked in this one, it was over. But better luck next time, Reina Dorada, because I want to see more of your matches. Nothing against Lolita, because I started to like her too, but I had just started to root for Reina Dorada right when the lock hit, and I'm like, well, that'll teach me. So we had what I figured was going to be one of the barn burners for the first round in the next one, which was Diotza, Quetzal, and Zuxis. And this was the last one started fast, this one started even faster. Like they tore into each other. Basically, both of them ran straight at each other as soon as the referee said fight, and they were both in the air and attempted to grab the other lady's hair and yanked them to the ground. So that's where we started, and it only went up from there. This is the one where the cameras, where the feed went out for a little bit, but it was lots of locks and reversals, and Zuxis finally hit what looked like a package pile driver for the win on this. Diosa Quetzal has been in a lot of my stuff lately, and the more matches I see of her, the more I like her. So I was really excited that they gave her a lot of work in this. Like she got a big amount of offense in, and they went back and forth a lot, and she looked really good even in the loss. And I think that she's the one of the two. There's two people that went on the first round that actually came out looking like they could have won and been great, and she's definitely one of them. And then we get to our other one that I was talking about that could be great. So I'm going to give the spoiler on this, though. They did not go hardcore. We had Hamada and Lou Dark Shaitan in the next one, and I was speculating that we might see some weapons or cookie sheets or anything else, because they both have a bit of a reputation for that. But there was brawling. There was lots of outside the ring action, but it was, in general, it was not hardcore. It was just more outside of the ring until near the finish. This is another one where our coverage on the website, he got very emotional about that, because the finish had the referee counting a 3 count after Hamada had hit, I believe it was, Hamada had hit a driver of some kind, a Michinoku driver, I believe it was. And the ref, according to him, and I don't disagree, Lou Dark Shaitan had a shoulder up when the 3 count was happening. So he was very emotional about that. Again, at this point, I had lost a lot of my energy to be that upset about it, but I did write it down, like, what the heck was up with that? Great match. Those last two, I can't decide between the bottom 2 ones, which one I liked better in the first round. But that was our first round, which set up Dulce Sexy Lolita for the second round and Zuxis Hamada for the semis. I should have taken a break here because I'd been up, but I was trying to trooper my way through it.
Because you're a professional, damn it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was sucking down energy drinks and trying to take notes and anything else to keep me awake, because 4 hours of promo, and it was it was hot that night too, so I was starting to drift off. So this one started off faster for Sexy. She looked like she was a lot more into it. Like, this is somebody else made the point that Sexy probably looked like she put more effort into this because she was happy with the booking she was getting. Yeah, as opposed to the first round, we got a lot more back and forth. We got a lot of fast-paced action. I honestly thought that for a minute there that Lolita might have a chance, but at the end, Sexy hits, I believe it was a lock. The same lock that she hit that she controversially was using before, and kind of alluded to that too, because she didn't let it go right away, but it seemed like that was more of a intentional nod to the fans instead of like I'm legitimately trying to hurt this person sort of thing. She was able to get Lolita to stand up and shake hands afterwards, so that they, at least while the camera's on, were being friendly. And then we had Ayako Hamada versus Zeuxis, which I need to go and find if they've wrestled before, because this is the first time I've seen a full match of the two of them going, and my goodness, do I want more. They both started fast. That's the only match it looks like that didn't really start fast was the first one in the first round. But you had brawling, you had dives to the outside, you had pretty much anything you think of that's lucha libre going on. And the top rope, it was a top rope Spanish fly for the finish with Zeuxis coming out on top. So
very
fantastic cool match. Yeah, I mean, if they put up highlights of these later, if you watch any of Zeuxis' matches, you will be in for a treat.
Yeah, I'll have to check them out. I really like Zeuxis.
And it's, again, I want to be clear, this is not downplaying anybody else, because I think everybody who doesn't have sexy in their name really put in a top effort performance in all of their matches.
I do love the shade coming from you. I have to admit, I love this. She's not going to listen to the show, so I can throw in a little shade, and that'll be fine, right? And it's absolutely your opinion. I feel like this is really interesting that you go into that analysis about her level of work as far as heel versus face. I think that's also, I guess, part of the, when she's doing a good job in a way, when you look at her character and can see, yes, I don't like you, but that is, I think, the consensus that has happened. It seems like there is a lot of that consensus through social media. So not necessarily that's the wrong thing to say. It just seems like there's a healthy opinion out there that is, there wasn't as much of a level of effort of someone of her caliber that she should have put in.
Yeah, she could have been, like, she was in two matches with younger women that could learn a lot from her, and hopefully they got some good things out of it, because they did give good matches, but I felt like they could have gotten a lot more if she really, really wanted to, because we've all seen her Lucha Underground work, we've seen her AAA work. She can, when she feels like it, and she feels maybe it was just the fact there wasn't an audience there to really get her worked up, but when she gets going, she's on a different level, and she did not hit that stride in this whole tournament.
It's too bad.
It was still good. I don't want to downplay this at all. It was still really good.
Yeah, and it was fantastic that they did put this tournament on. And it being was this the first event of the new streaming service?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. This was so what we've got other than this event is there's some older events from previous years that they have found either different footage of or had not been previously put up on their YouTube channel, and so there's some older stuff you can go through, but this was the first modern event that you could get, and right now it's the only way to get it is on the service, so it was very much worth it. And on our final, to Dusty's question, Sexy made it very clear that she was going to be the heel or the Rudo in this one, because we started with the fake handshake, and
that's like the easiest, like the start off Rudo move, Ruda move, I guess in this case,
Ruda,
fake handshake.
My apologies for not getting the gendering correct on that. That's you are right. It was definitely the Ruda move, and I loved it. But she was in there with Zuxis, who's who's been a pistol through this whole thing. She's also no stranger to a rougher, more physical style. If anybody out there has seen, they should have seen. You should have seen some matches by now. She's great, and so she quickly got the upper hand and started took it to the ground. Started doing lots of locks, and then we got it a lot more back and forth. And this one I was kind of in the match a lot, so I didn't really write a lot of notes. But the finish was top rope Rana with Sexy getting the win, and then we she genuinely offered to shake hands again, and then did a little bit of an interview. About that point, I decided I needed to get some sleep. But great event. It was good fun. So there you have it, fans. The first tournament is Dolce Sexy is our winner. She has the trophy for it and everything. And it was as much as the story of this coverage is me tossing a little bit of micro shade at a very talented performer. It was a good win. She looked like a good heel in the whole thing, and well worth the couple of bucks to get the service, to at the very least get this whole thing unedited.
Yeah, I saw on the Master Lucha website you can sign up for the streaming service, and they do accept PayPal. So if you want to use PayPal to sign up for that service, you can.
There's a reason why this one got watched over the weekend and DTU did not. I used my PayPal to sign up for this service. I did have a couple problems with not having an account for a while. Like, it took my money, took the PayPal and said congratulations, and then I didn't have an account. But the joys of Google Translate and email got me through to an account on Saturday. So everything, the time I needed it, was all in place. So I'm still giving the service a positive thumbs up, and the tournament, it gets a big, massive thumbs up.
Mm-hmm. And there is an event review of this tournament on luchacentral.com done by Eric Mutter. So for anyone else who is interested in his thoughts on this event, it is covered by luchacentral.com. Now we're gonna kick it off to Denise Salcedo with this week's Lucha Central.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch your favorite shows each week, or when to try a new one. Monday, the Business of the Business podcast is back as Master Republic President Kevin Kleinrock talks with Headlock's comic writer and creator Michael Kingston about his latest edition, Tales from the Road 2, and working with superstars including Jerry Lawler, Shane Helms, RVD, Pentagon Jr., Taya Valkyrie, and more as the book enters its final week on Kickstarter. Tuesdays, it's the Lucha Underground centered show, Mass, and Mayhem. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at theluchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Also on Tuesdays, WrestleBoss with Bobby Chulo, live, covering pro wrestling and MMA from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Pacific. Head to WrestleBossLive.com to listen live and even call in or download it Wednesday across podcast platforms. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Find the video version on Facebook Wednesday through Friday, and then Saturdays download the audio version in podcast form. This week, AAA referee Piero takes a seat at the table, and the crew talk about the controversy of luchadores and revenues from digital content, as well as the growth of luchadores as YouTubers and influencers. Thursdays, it's straight out of the bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez. This week, Ricardo Rodriguez pulls up to the show, and the trio talk about his start in SoCal, signing with the WWE, and being the personal ring announcer for Alberto Del Rio. heading to India to be the head trainer at the Great Khali School, and more. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and outside of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. This week, both shows take a look back at the past weekend, including Mexico streaming shows from DTU and Más Lucha's women's tournament, plus all of the lucha-related matches on WWE Extreme Rules, Impact Wrestling Slammiversary, and AEW Dynamite. Plus, LC Weekly in Espanol looks at the greatest hair versus hair matches of all time and whose hair may be the most valuable in a match today. Be sure to subscribe and follow all of your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, and please be sure to give a rating and review to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central Central. Have a great week.
And another big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central, letting you know what is happening with the Lucha Central Podcast Network. Now, Dusty's going to be sharing with us, or guiding us, or, you know, there's just a lot that's happened in WWE over the past few days, so I'm just going to have Dusty take it away.
Yeah, I thought that we'd start with Monday Night Raw tonight. This last Monday, the 20th, we saw a backstage attack on Angel Garza and Andrade from the Street Profits that led to a non-title tag team match between them. It was a pretty good match, back and forth, a lot of momentum between the teams. Andrade and Angel worked especially well together on this match, but it didn't really count for much. After a really nice frog splash where he rotated in midair, Montez Ford got the pin on Angel Garza for the win. Afterwards, Zelina Vega told them that if they were going to be a team, they needed to prove it, which led to them running in on Big Show during the main event to assist Randy Orton, but then very quickly being run back into the back by the Viking Raiders. And that was kind of it this week for Angel and Andrade, and it felt pretty stale and felt like they're just going to keep giving us the same thing week after week until SummerSlam, when they're going to do whatever it is they plan to do, I guess.
Yeah.
And they even had a cancellation of the United States title match at Extreme Rules and could have put this match on Extreme Rules, but didn't for whatever reason. And that's really all the TV news for WWE. There was nothing on SmackDown, nothing much else on Raw, but that leads us into Extreme Rules. And we all had a lot of opinions on this show. We had the eye for an eye match between Rey Mysterio and Seth. And although the match itself was decent, the psychology of the match and the finish were the real horror show. Brendan, I know you want to talk about this first. What did you think about this match?
So my single note on this whole match was I, EYE, hate this.
Zing, yes, for the win.
Yeah, 100%.
I just it underdelivered on the promise that they gave, which was the finish. You had confusing booking of the match where Rey Mysterio at parts is wrestling like this is a cruiserweight match and not that like he's trying to take out a guy's eye. You know, it's two very talented guys who did a lot of really good things. I want to try and be as positive as I can on this, but as we've discussed for weeks now, the gimmick match was flawed to start with, and then they under-delivered on it. I was talking with somebody, and there was, even with the what they did with the prosthetic eye, which I didn't see until somebody actually put
I didn't either.
picture up with a giant arrow pointing to it. That's the only time I saw it. The way they could have done that better would have been to do what they've done with a lot of the bloody footage and just gone black and white in that moment. And as soon as somebody mentioned that to me, I'm like, well, there's the easiest low-tech fix to make this actually look like something legitimately scary has happened. And then that vomiting thing that we had going on would have actually felt powerful instead of confusing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they didn't make the eye, like you say. I didn't see it until photos hit Facebook the next day. And people were kind of showing it off.
Yeah, I don't think that was really apparent when it was done, because they had some really bad, or really bad, and also back and forth between Seth and Rey at that moment. So the cameras were just moving too quickly back and forth to get a good look at what was happening with the eye.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, if they'd done some cinematic stuff to it, made it more of a
exactly what I thought they were going to do, was like to give it like a 1980s horror movie feel. And I was really down for that, because I thought, well, that'll be exciting, some practical effects. And I can't remember, I think it's the House of a Thousand Corpses, maybe one of the Rob Zombie movies. They're all very gory, but it was all done with practical effects. And so you know that they could have done something really, interesting and unique there, and they just didn't. And I have no idea why. Like they really dropped the ball on this match. I talked to 9 different people, and all 9 people hated the finish.
I don't know anyone who liked the match. I think there was the wrestling itself. I think there was fans of, and Brendan was absolutely right. There was good wrestling in there, but the fact that they treated this as a wrestling match compared to even a brawl, they have really built this up for weeks as a personal vendetta between 2 men who are physically trying to rip each other apart. And the fact that it was treated as a wrestling match and not 2 men who were, trying to, rip the other apart. I was very confused as to why they decided to go with that psychology. And then on the fact that you have a stipulation where their exact words were, in order to win this match, you must extract your opponent's eye. It was just very confusing. And I think Seth and Rey did the best that they could in this scenario, but ultimately it came to the producing and what, the higher-ups probably envisioned what they could do with this match. And again, it makes you then think, why? Why did you do this? Why did you decide to not go in any other direction with this? I understand that it probably got some people watching and this whole horror show thing, but even the swamp fight, that had more of an 80s feel to it. I almost think they could have gone more eerie, like a Saw direction. Like they've had
that would have been amazing too.
That would have been very cool, And I know that some fans, I was talking to someone about this, and they don't even, they didn't want to see it in a cinematic direction because of the fact that it could have been too impractical. And they brought up Lucha Underground as an example, that, people would die and then they would come back the next week, but those were overall very popular vignettes and storylines, and fans got it to the point where they realized
we ate it up.
Yeah, that it wasn't real, but it was adding an element to the story. And I don't know, WWE treats some of those things in those ways, and maybe unintentionally or intentionally, but I think fans would have gotten the hint, because then at the end of the night you see the swamp fight and that took it in a whole different direction. You could have done something really unique in a cinematic way, and I felt like it was such a lost opportunity that it still boggles my mind
so much.
why they went into this direction. It does seem like this is a way for them to have Rey, bow out for a little bit. As we talked about and reported, Rey was not working under a contract right now. So he needs to be off TV for a time. It made sense that he was the loser in this. And you have 2 well-established wrestlers with Rey and Seth, but the fact that they this is really, like, at this point, I think the laughing stock of the year.
In
a good way.
People are just talking about its worst.
Yeah. Do you guys think that Rey Mysterio's contract could have played into the finish, or the lack of investment in it? Because it's rumored that they wanted to sign him for a 5-year contract, and he has refused and only wants an 18-month contract, and he wants a raise. And so I'm not sure if that played in to the decision not to.
Yeah, from everything I know of WWE politics, that sounds very plausible, that if he wasn't going to give Vince what Vince wanted, Vince was not going to go out of his way to make that better. Like,
I don't. That's what I was kind of alluding to.
I don't think that he said, screw it, let's make it shit. But I don't think that he put a lot of effort into making it good.
No extra effort. Exactly.
Yeah.
And there could have been other reasons. I was talking with someone about the possibility of how maybe some of the issues related to the COVID cases came out, and maybe they were short on resources and time. I mean, the Swamp Fight really did take a lot. If you watched it,
it was impressive.
It was very impressive and very detailed. So maybe they didn't have the time to invest into another cinematic match. And so, one had to suffer as well. Who knows if that was a reason behind it, but, they also had time to build this up, and the fact that they just didn't go in that direction. Out of all the other matches on the card that they had, and the other, and really they also co-branded this as this was the other match that was that was a horror show. So the fact that they didn't put as much detail into that's disappointing.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be one of the biggest misfires in wrestling. The way people remember the Shockmaster, the Gobbledygooker and stuff.
Yeah,
I think this eye for an eye match is going to be remembered that way in the annals of history.
You're absolutely right.
And now to add some drama to the situation, we've had both Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes in the last couple days talking about how Rey Mysterio is the best in the world and how Rey influenced Cody to kind of go do things his own way. And so it seems like AEW might be kind of reaching out with some overtures there during this time towards Rey Mysterio.
Well, Chris Jericho is, in my opinion, one of the smartest people currently in wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. He is a genius. He's the David Bowie of wrestling. I can see that analogy very well. In my opinion, even if they are not able to offer Rey anything right now, by just alluding to it, you are getting more people to give that extra thought to looking at AEW on Wednesday. They're gonna, genius.
So he knows what he's doing by making those comments. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be silly of AEW to not make an offer if he's currently wrestling without a contract. But
absolutely.
But we've already established that he seems very set on the idea of getting Dominic in the WWE program. So I don't know how seriously he's going to take an offer from anybody that's not WWE.
I think it all comes down probably to more of what Dominic can be offered and what Dominic wants. Because, if I was in Rey's position and my son was like, I actually think AEW is the place to be. Look what they're offering us. I would feel great about that. But I've also noticed in all of the contract news, we never hear anything about Dominic. I don't know if he has a contract with WWE, if he's just on a per appearance basis. So it's kind of interesting there. I think if he's under contract in any way, Rey absolutely resigns with WWE.
Yeah. Well, and he's very clearly a negotiating piece, whether he's got a deal or not. But they've been much more quiet about any sort of thing with that. I would guess that they were doing appearances with Dominic as a favor to Rey to entice him to do more appearances, and he was not under a specific contract other than as an extension of Rey's contract.
Yeah, I usually when they have those, especially in developmental talent, or those new recruits, they do pretty, solid press releases on those. So if he were signed, we would know because WWE would have made a deal, just like when, The Rock's daughter signed on. They really do big releases for second and third generation trainees. So we would have heard about it.
Yeah, I assumed it was kind of like a per appearance basis, but I assumed that they're also paying Dominic to appear, but I don't necessarily know that in any way. And I know he was training, I think it was the Santino brothers at one time, and so I think it'll be interesting to see where he wants to go and where he ends up, and I think that will definitely influence Rey's decision.
It's true. I know that they're not listening right now, but Dominic, I think you would do so much better in somebody else's program and then going to WWE later. Like, this
I
is
agree.
not the time for
if
the
you come in as a
WWE.
big deal, it's easy to be a big deal, but they're having a very hard time building people up to be a big deal right now.
Yeah, and I mean, in general, being a multi-generation wrestler with such a prominent name, you don't want the spotlight to be on you when you make mistakes. You want to be at you know, if you're going to botch, you want to be at an indie show in front of 200 people instead of, you know, however millions of people are watching on
worldwide.
television. So,
yeah.
Well, speaking of AEW, Dusty, you also have some news to report to us on this week's AEW shows.
We had some lucha action on both Dark and Dynamite this week. Not a lot, but some. On Dark, Diamante defeated Kylan King by pinfall in a great match. It really whet my appetite for seeing her match the next night on Dynamite. And this also led into the debut of Ivelisse on Dynamite in the match against Diamante. And it was so good. Like, they both wrestled like their lives depended on it. And despite cutting away during the match for a Brig Swole interview, they really gave the match everything they had. I thought that was just disrespectful and like, I did not like that.
Especially since the stated purpose of this match was to build up the women's division, not just...
Correct.
Yeah.
And the way commentary talked about how they had worked together in the past, they just didn't do a great job, though, of explaining who they were or why they hated each other. But otherwise, it was a great match. I hope AEW can make it available, like maybe on YouTube, without the interview detracting from the match. Like I say, I just thought that was rude and insulting to these two women that were really putting on an impressive clinic in the ring. And they also announced for AEW the Women's Tag Team Cup tournament coming soon, the Deadly Draw. And so I wondered if the commentary talking about their past history and how they'd fought with each other and against each other, I wonder if that's building to them being a tag team for the tournament. Yeah.
The commentary even alluded to that. They're like, we could see these two as a tag team in the tournament. So they're definitely putting that in people's heads. I hope so
too. It feels like a natural fit for these two. And to see these luchadoras that aren't kind of the usual lucha libre to get out there on a worldwide, like a massive worldwide stage. I love the idea that they're going to get to do that, hopefully, and to kind of expose the world to more facets of what lucha libre is and can be. Because everybody, we're conditioned in America to expect, like flips and high-flying matches from luchadors. But even the ladies can be hard hit. I mean, some of the chops in this match, the sound when the chops would hit was just... I mean, you don't hear that in most of the men's matches.
Well,
I mean,
that
these
was
ladies...
that was the thing with Ivelisse all the way back in Lucha Underground. Like, she would go chop for chop with like Pentagon and
anybody. Yeah, she was really
people are familiar with Pentagon chops because that's a big part of his personality. So I do want to take a second here because one of the things that I was hearing a lot of people say, both on Twitter and on the coverage that I was listening to, is people didn't know who these two ladies were, and I want to.
I know.
If you're not following Lucha circles, you don't necessarily know. So I want to go all the way back. Ivelisse, as I just mentioned, she was on Lucha Underground all the way back in season 1. She trained lucha, came here from Puerto Rico. They said this on the show, but I know some people don't listen to the commentary. She came here with a bag of clothes and like $10 and managed to get herself into a wrestling school and was the only woman in the wrestling school, according to the stories that I've heard.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
And was able to just tear it up. And she hasn't looked back since. And then you have Diamante, who's a little younger, but kind of has a similar background. And they even alluded to this in the match where Ivelisse, who was working a little more ruda, was commenting during the match, like, everybody wants to be me, everybody wants to be Ivelisse.
Yes.
And so you have that kind of dynamic going on already, where Ivelisse is aware that she's the trailblazer for this new type of luchadora. And I mean,
and she looked great, like her hair and her gear and everything.
Yeah.
Like, both she came out they both, exactly. They looked like stars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've talked about gear and presentations, but that really, I thought it was incredible last night for them.
Yeah, and they both came out rocking the flag too. So I mean,
I
loved that.
I saw that, and I knew Miranda was going to be loving that part. But.
Oh yeah, if you saw my Instagram story, I was loving it. At the hashtag Miranda, if you want to follow my Instagram stories. But as soon as Ivelisse came out repping the PR flag, I knew it 100% because that's just what we do. Proud and Powerful every week as well. They have the black Puerto Rican flag, but she had the colors y todo, and Diamante Cuban as well. So they have, again, very similar, even just cultural backgrounds, but trajectory, and the fact that they were able to wrestle each other on such a big stage is big.
Yeah.
And absolutely seems like commentary was alluding to them partnering up in the future for this women's tag tournament. So I hope to see them there. But surprising for me that Diamante won. I think the consensus we had come up with last week was that, yes, they were setting up Diamante in dark to face Ivelisse, but just so that then she could then lose to Ivelisse. But the fact that she won, it was a roll-up, so it was very quick, the most deadliest move in professional wrestling, as they call it, but it was still a win. So I think that was just the most surprising part for me.
I loved it. I loved that it was shocking to those of us that had a better idea what to expect. I love that it was a roll up and not like a big power move or so that you set up further matches. And then I love that they that finish made everyone that was watching that, because this was such a physical thing, super want to pay attention to the women's division again. Like I could feel the Twitter vibe ramping up of people that want to see more AEW women's matches, and that's not been a feeling.
I'm one of those people. Yeah. Ever since Britt Baker, who I love, got her. I mean, I'm Rudo at heart, pro Rudo. I love Britt Baker. And then Chris Statlander got her, and like Rios in Japan, and all of a sudden the women's division just kind of shrunk so fast that I'm glad to see some new blood, but especially some luchadoras coming in and getting the chance to expand that women's main event. I'm excited. I mean, I can't wait to see Ivelisse versus Sheeta. I think that's going to be an incredible match someday.
Oh, yeah, not someday. That's next week.
Yeah. I couldn't remember whether it was Diamante or Ivelisse next week. I just couldn't remember.
Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. It's Diamante next week because she won.
Yeah.
But,
I think that they're all going to be... I'm not as familiar with Diamante, although I noticed she wore her LAX gear last night, which I thought was pretty cool.
And on dark.
Yeah, I wondered if there was going to be any mention of it or kind of connection to it, but it's my understanding that they don't have any rights to the LAX name at AEW, so maybe there won't be.
Yeah,
but
I think
I would love to see her teamed up, maybe even as the first women's wrestler for the Inner Circle, but if not that, at least maybe in some trios matches with Santana and Ortiz again. And Ivelisse being her kind of friend enemy on the show. Ivelisse has done some amazing trios where she was the inaugural trios champion or one of the inaugural trios champions on Lucha Underground. And so I would love to see this lead into some mixed trios matches, Lucha style, on AEW. That's something that we don't see a whole lot of on American television outside of Lucha Underground. And it was part of what made it kind of special and unique. And so I would love to see some of that kind of blur into AEW and spots and just bring in that Lucha feel. And before...
I have to get this out there because I love doing my fan bookings here. My fan booking that just popped into my head was if you have Ivelisse hanging out with Proud and Powerful instead, and that leads to a further feud.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I like that idea a lot, too.
All right. I know some AEW people aren't listening. But
yeah, but if you are, we offer booking tips for free.
Yeah.
well, I have fan bookings for days.
Last night we also had Jurassic Express versus Inner Circle. This was actually a pretty great match with the return to the Inner Circle moniker for Chris Jericho and company, which was kind of setting up a reveal that we didn't necessarily notice until later. But unfortunately, this match never really fully clicked for me. There's only so many times we can credibly watch Jungle Boy get shut down before he can make the tag. I thought the big man stuff between Luchasaurus and Jake Hagar was really interesting, but it was kind of fleeting. And then at the end, we had a Serpentico run in with a bat, and he hit Luchasaurus, which made Jericho was able to get the pin. After the match, there was a beat down. Serpentico hit a shooting star press, which should have been one of our signs.
Should have been the big giveaway.
Yeah, but then he removes the mask, and it's not Serpentico at all. It was Sammy Guevara in disguise. So Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends showed up, and I mean it was something, and it set up a 5 versus 5 tag team match next week. But this also leaves Jurassic Express a man heavy, and Marco Stunt can kind of play into this matchup. But it also makes me wonder if Inner Circle is going to bring somebody in to help even up the numbers.
Maybe they'll bring in Serpentico.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Damn, that's so easy and so good.
Oh, it would be fantastic. I hadn't even considered that. Now I want it so bad. That's all I want.
So I did have a little fun with this whole thing. I was on Twitter talking about how I mentioned something to the effect of Sammy Guevara shedding his snakeskin and popping back up. And Aubrey Edwards, who follows me because she's one of my ref trainers, told me the story. Cool. Yeah, she told me the story of her husband watching the match, where he noticed he said something to the effect of when Serpentico came out, like, oh, so Serpentico is replacing Sammy now, and then he hits the shooting star press, and it's like, oh, Serpentico is Sammy now.
So that is awesome.
so my Twitter's been going crazy with that. So if you're here because Aubrey sent you to the show, hello and welcome. We love you here. We would love to talk about AEW luchadors all the time with you. But that was kind of the fun of that, was that he's a savvy guy. He's a wrestler on his own and knows a lot of the stories. But he also was sucked in by this, and she did not tell him what the reveal was going to be. So I loved all of that.
Good for her, kayfabe, even in marriage.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about kayfabe in their vows, So I mean, they got to do what they got to do to protect the business. That's a good marriage. Yeah, she's a professional. Damn it.
Very much so. Yeah.
Well, that is so cool.
Yeah, we will be talking more about AEW next week. Also, real quick to preview AEW Dark, we will be talking about that next week because they do have a plethora of matches. It's been touted as the biggest AEW Dark thus far. We do have just recently announced Sammy Guevara will be facing Fuego del Sol. You do also have Orange Cassidy going up against Serpentico. And
is it Serpentico?
And we have a triple tag team match, SCU versus Private Party versus Santana and Ortiz. Those are just the lucha-related matches that have been announced for Dark. Many others. We also have Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss versus Pineapple Pete and Michael Nakazawa. Scorpio Sky versus Corey Hollis. Abandon versus Skylar Moore. Lance Archer versus Frankie Thomas. FTR versus Peter Avalon and Brandon Cutler. And Best Friends versus John Silver and Alex Reynolds of the Dark Order. So a stack of AEW Dark for next week. We will be talking about it. So make sure you come back here, Lucha Central.
Yep. Yes.
to get our thoughts about it. Real quick, we're going to be jumping into NXT. Not a whole lot of lucha content this week, but we do have some big news. This week, William Regal announced that Keith Lee would have to vacate the NXT North American Championship, and with that, there would be a ladder match for the North American Championship at NXT TakeOver 30. The way that these individuals, as far as the participants for the ladder match, are going to be determined is a series of triple threat matches that will be happening over the next few weeks, and the winners of those matches will then move on into the ladder match. So we did have one of those matches already and more to come in the next few weeks. But as far as that is the big news. Keith Lee is no longer Keith Lee Two Belts. Keith Two Belts, he is just the NXT champion. And we will be getting a new North American champion at TakeOver 30.
Yeah.
As far as it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Takeovers are notoriously just fantastic.
And a ladder match.
And a ladder match.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I was wondering when Keith Lee won this if they were going to bring that, because that used to be a NWA rule that you could not have the world title and a regional title at the same time. And NXT is very NWA inspired, so I was wondering if that was
it's a great touch.
Yeah.
Well, and it helps keep everything fresh.
Yeah,
it does.
Aside from Becky's run, they don't usually make... I mean, like, even when Seth had the world title and the U.S. title, it only lasted, like, a one pay-per-view cycle. And so I think it just makes sense and helps keep the scene fresh, especially... And the North American Championship is one of the more interesting belts in NXT. It's had an amazing lineage so far. And I hope that the ladder match kind of leads to something for El Legado del Fantasma. And I think that's kind of a natural fit for somebody like him, and maybe his way to move up the card. And
I think everybody listening knows that that's who we want to win. So.
Oh yeah, that's a fan favorite here on the show. Yeah, and you brought up a good point about the North American belt, because already in the first qualifying match, it was a triple threat match: Bronson Reed versus Roderick Strong versus Johnny Gargano. Bronson Reed won, which was probably the last person we thought that was going to qualify for this match, and he's the first one. Now, granted, we don't know if Roderick Strong or Johnny Gargano are going to get more opportunities to qualify, but it is showing that they are wanting this match to have a different set of contenders than what we've normally seen. So this to me is kind of a glimpse into that, and I think I mean that's how stars are born in NXT. Just having a match like a ladder match of that caliber can really put people on the map and change their trajectory of their career into a whole new direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to your point, this is it's a guaranteed thing that somebody is going to be a spectacular match because it's happening at a takeover. And even takeovers during the middle of COVID, everybody in the locker room seems to have that extra bit of energy. They always put that extra little bit of effort in. So even if you're getting three people who have never been in a title picture before in that ladder match, you're going to get something special. Yeah, I mean, I'm super looking forward to kind of that change in landscape. To set things up, Gargano is on Twitter complaining about how he didn't lose that match. So I feel like he's going to try and come back in like another match, or he's going to wind up wrestling somebody for their spot in this match. But I hope that what they instead do with him is they put him on in another match on the show and not in the North American title match. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of Keith Lee, he watched very closely as his friend Dominic Dijakovic got submitted by Karrion Kross quite brutally, I would say. And Dominic was, trying to tell Keith not to worry, but it was a brutal showcase by both men. A really good match. I mean, both of them are very similar in height, or very close in height, slightly different as far as body composition, but I mean, they were very toe-to-toe, absolutely, throughout that whole match. But towards the end, just Karrion was able to get Dominik Dijakovic's arm within the steel stairs, kicked them, and that was really the end for him of that match. He won by submission as Keith Lee came out, trying to help his friend to be there for him. But alas, he went night-night. Also, then it does seem like they're setting up Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee. I mean, I think that would be a great headliner for TakeOver 30.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to see it any time before then. Don't give it to me on a weekly edition of NXT. I want to wait till NXT TakeOver 30, because this is going to be such a fantastic match if they build it up this way, like they have. I think it will be nothing less than fantastic.
With this match that we got this week, I really like the fact that, to your point, that it was kind of back and forth, but that when Kross found that kind of brutal extra gear is when he really stepped out and clearly was winning the match at that point. And it sets him up as a very credible threat to Keith Lee, because we've seen the competitive matches that Keith Lee and Dijakovic have had. And we saw that he reached that level and then kind of found that extra step to go further. So he's a legit threat, even if if people are thinking he may not, story-wise, need to win right now. There's always been in the back of your head, like, he can do it. So I love the way that was done on the show.
Yeah, I expected that going into this match. Talking about it last week, there was one where I liked the setup. I liked everything that they built to it, and the match itself wasn't a disappointment at all. And the way that they were tying in that friendship between Dominik Dijakovic and Keith Lee, and now how Karrion Kross went after that a bit. There was a really funny. Maybe it was a tweet as well, but I follow them on Instagram. Fox. They had a really funny tweet or a funny picture of Keith Lee holding Dominik Dijakovic, similar to when Rocky Balboa held Apollo Creed in the Rocky movies. Same, very similar vibes. I thought that was hilarious. So, moving on to another event that happened this past Saturday, this past weekend, we talked about WWE Extreme Rules, the horror show, which we all agree it was bad. It was pretty scary. Another wrestling company put together a pretty well-received event. Impact presented Slammiversary on Saturday. Last week we covered 3 of the matches that Lucha fans would want to see and follow. And we'll cover those results right now, plus a few of the maybe interesting surprises that came about. But going back to Slammiversary, for the Women's Gauntlet match to determine the number 1 contender for the Knockouts Championship, Lucha favorite Taya was one of the final 2 competitors of the match, however, lost to Kylie Rae. So Kylie Rae is now your number 1 contender for the Knockout Championship. Of course, this match had some shenanigans because, of course, Taya's man boy, I don't know how else to describe him. Because he's not even really a man, just personal assistant. Sure, that's saying it nicely. Whatever Johnny Bravo is not a personal assistant. He is a good boy. Johnny Bravo came out. He was actually the 3rd or 4th competitor in that match, seemingly dressed up as Taya, because that was probably her original placement. But maybe because she didn't like that, she ordered Johnny Bravo to go out in her place. So he came out with the wig and the ear headbutt things on. He was quickly eliminated, and then he came back out towards the end. I keep saying like a dime store Sting dressed up as Rosemary, because that's also their thing, is that he's also friends with Rosemary. So some shenanigans during the gauntlet match, but especially the end. I mean, we've been talking about Taya versus Kylie Ray. I love to see them more on a one-on-one match, but this was a fantastic finish to that gauntlet.
It seems like that's what they're building to.
Yes, it seems like that is definitely something that they're building to long term, and I'm not mad at that. Also, now with Kylie Ray being the number one contender, you could kind of guess what that meant for the Knockouts Championship match. Deonna Purrazzo beat Jordan Grace, so now we have a new Knockouts champion. So some that were along the line, and they set this up already a little bit. We may see Kylie Ray versus Deonna Purrazzo. Speaking of new champions,
that's gonna be awesome.
We have a new X Division champion.
Yes.
Yes. Former guest Willie Mack did lose his X Division championship to Chris Bay. It is the reign of Bay. It is the Bay division. The finesse division, yes. I mean, whatever you want to call it, it is his now. And an interesting note on that from this past Tuesday, they did have the rematch in which Chris won clean. So it does seem like they are moving in the direction of Chris Bay. And we don't know what's going to happen now with Willie Mack. Who knows where he's going to end up. And maybe he'll end up somewhere near the top. Because of some other events that happened in Slammiversary, including maybe closer to the World Championship picture. Eddie Edwards became the new Impact World Champion. This came after a series of swerves that were set up for the championship match. It was originally announced that it was going to be a 4-way after some changes with that. Of course, back when the match was first announced, this was when Tessa Blanchard was still the champion, and it was going to be a 5-way between Tessa, Eddie Edwards, Trey Miguel, Ace Austin, and Michael Elgin. Tessa was let go and stripped of the championship. Michael Elgin was removed off of TV, so that just left Trey, Ace, and Eddie. They then added a mystery fourth, which when they had that at the event, it was Rich Swann, who came back from injury. Many fans were slightly disappointed at that. And then all of a sudden, another swerve. There was a 5th participant, and that turned out to be Eric Young. So this ended up being a 5-way.
He didn't look like
Eric
Young anymore.
He did not look like Eric Young anymore. That is the absolute truth. Did not look like him whatsoever. And it was an elimination match. So Trey was eliminated first, then Eric Young. After that, Rich Swann, and then you had your final two, Eddie Edwards and Ace Austin. Eddie Edwards became champion. And one thing that he did announce this week on Impact was that he is going to be doing an open challenge every week. So he is going to allow people from the roster to challenge him. So I know we talked about this offline, but this could be a great spot for a Willie Mack match.
Absolutely.
On an episode of Impact.
Yep.
If I don't see a Willie Mack versus Eddie Edwards match, then what are we doing here? What are we doing?
For real. Yeah.
I mean, and those two can do a really great match, so there's no reason to not do it. Even if Willie Mack doesn't come out on top, he can move himself up the card by having a great match.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, he can get the rub. So I think it would be a great, great match. That's one of my most wanted matches right now in Impact.
Yes, me too. I'm very excited about the possibility. So Impact, make it happen. That's an order.
I just want to real quick say a big congratulations to Chris Bay, who is also an area champion here. So I mean, really excited to see. I know he's cool. I know he's supposed to be the bad guy, but he's my local guy. So
same out here. Chris Bay is a champion for one of our local promotions out in Arizona. And very big on the West Coast. So I think there was a lot of people on my social media pages I saw that were very excited and happy for him. And yes, he is playing a bit of the heel now. But I know he has a lot of support, not only on the West Coast,
but a great heel, though.
Yeah, he is a great heel. If he can make it as a heel in Impact, then he's going to make it anywhere.
It's a lot harder to be a convincing heel than a face. So if he can do this, he can do anything.
Yes, I agree. And real quick, we did have some surprises and returns. The first one of the night, the Motor City Machine Guns came back, beating the Rascals. Of course, we had a surprise by Heath, not Slater, just Heath. I already mentioned Eric. No last name. The Good Brothers, Doc Anderson, or Doc and Gallows. Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. Machine Gun Anderson. Yep, they came back at the end when Eddie Edwards was celebrating. They helped even the odds when Ace Austin and Madman Fulton were trying to attack Eddie. So they're fully back. And they ended Slammiversary with him, and they started Impact with him. EC3 is back.
Oh, I'm so glad to see him back. He, more than anybody, I felt like he was completely wasted in WWE. Like, he just never even got a chance to grab the ball and run with it and show him what he could do. And so I am so glad to see him back with Impact, where they really value him as a main event player.
Yeah, overall, I think Slammiversary was really well received. Not a whole lot of lucha content. I still feel like that's still something they're figuring out. But they've had a lot of shakeups over the past few months. They've had to change storylines, matches. They, of course, by releasing several people, including Tessa Blanchard and Joey Ryan. So they've had to make a lot of adjustments. And it seemed like now Slammiversary is the start of a new chapter. Even their new, the way that they start their weekly shows has changed with new music and new footage. So it seems like they're really stamping this as a milestone to move forward. But they do have good bones. I mean, the Knockouts division still is fantastic.
It's amazing.
And Taya is still one of the best, wrestlers,
she's so good
in professional wrestling, So
she's
whether
one of the best
it is
in the world, easily
in the Knockouts division, or even wrestling men, if that's the direction they go into, which they know they can.
Yeah, she's great at that too.
She's great at that. The X division now is under, is the finesse division. So we have a new champion, but it also leaves room for someone like Willie Mack, who is just ridiculously talented, can wrestle so many styles, can wrestle against so many people. The opportunity to hopefully move further up the card into a higher role. And they have brought in a lot of people. Many of them did work for WWE, but if this means too that they're open to bringing in people from other promotions, could eventually mean that they are hopefully having a bigger Lucha Libre presence in the future.
Yeah, well, the world will change when the borders are allowed to open up a little more, because they were negotiating with some Lucha Libre companies as well. So we definitely can see more lucha content from them. They are very open to the idea, and based on the reception of Taya and Willie Mack, and even Eddie Edwards, who has some level of lucha background as well, you can see that they're open to the idea. So we will continue to cover anything Impact does that is lucha related. So I look forward to seeing the future of this company with the way they're going.
Oh, me too.
All right. So if you are listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. Luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events will be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. But on top of all of this, it's free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
And now we have This Week in Lucha Libre History.
You can't remember when. Well, now you can say it's time for This Week in Lucha Libre.
That's right. Now it's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera for more information, birth dates, anniversaries, and amazing videos all about Lucha Libre. luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week, I chose July the 20th, 1996 for the WWA Welterweight Championship match between Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrera that was held at War Wrestling's 4th anniversary show. I chose this match because I had seen it on a dubbed video of Rey's matches when I was younger. We kind of talked about the tape trading thing before, but I wanted to see it again and watch it with more educated eyes, and it was even better than I remembered. The WWA welterweight belt was an important stepping stone in Mexico at the time, like it's currently held by Bandito, if that gives you any idea of its prestige. And it's been held by legit superstars like Eddie Guerrero, Psychosis Juventud, and again, Rey Mysterio, who would hold this title for the third and final time after winning this match. And he had a 216-day reign this time before losing to El Hijo del Santo. This match is incredible. Rey and Juventud were really the prototypes for this modern, high-flying style of lucha match. And even all around the world, they were the prototype. And so it's cool for us to get a glimpse of their work outside of the U.S. So many of us, especially people my age, and like Brendan, I'm sure he's familiar with these, they had a lot of ECW and WCW work that we got to see, but their foreign work is still kind of unknown to a lot of fans that had seen that. I ended up watching the whole show after I watched the match. The entire show was a stacked card, but this match was easily the highlight of the show. It's available on the luchacentral.com YouTube feed, and I strongly suggest everybody check this out. It's just as good and it's just as relevant as their 2017 match at the Pro Wrestling World Cup, and it's an excellent primer for why Rey Mysterio is arguably the most famous luchador of all time and maybe the best.
It's great stuff.
Oh, I cannot recommend this match enough. It takes place in Tokyo, and it's a early Rey Mysterio match, 1996. It's so good, though. Juventud is at the top of his game. And on a card with trying to think, Jushin Liger was on, a lot of big names, Negro Casas, big names. They stole the show easily with this match. Yeah. And it's one of the best lucha matches I've ever seen. And it feels just as fresh now. It feels totally fresh watching it. And this happened 25 years ago. So it's really impressive that Rey Mysterio is still putting out these kinds of matches once in a while. And really, it's just a great, great early match to show you why he's the best at what he does.
Excellent.
What did you pick this week, Brendan?
I felt like I might have been copping out a little bit, but I realized we have largely been talking about matches, but this week in Lucha Libre history has debuts frequently in it, as well as important dates, birth dates, and other things in there. But I found also on July 26th, but all the way back in 1942 was the debut in Arena, Mexico of El Santo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
The man under the mask had been using other gimmicks through the 30s. And then the story is that a promoter was Don Jesus Lome was putting together a new team of silver-themed wrestlers, and he wanted the man that would become Santo to be part of it, and he was offered three names: El Santo, El Diablo, or El Angel. And we know what he picked. And the rest is kind of history. But
wow.
yeah, like that's to me this was important because Santo is he's kind of the beginning of
he really is
larger than life luchador personas. He did movies, he had comic books, he had songs written about him. Anytime I'm walking around and I'm identified here, even all the way up here in Seattle, as wearing something Lucha Libre, I always get asked about Santo, or they can allude to some story like the guy that wore his mask his whole life, and I'm like, yeah, that's El Santo.
Yeah.
So he is. He's the icon of Lucha Libre. So
he really is. He's the godfather.
That date, July 26th, all the way back in 1942, was definitely worth mentioning in my opinion. Miranda, what did you have?
So I picked July 22nd, 1997. This is when Ultimo Dragon won the WCW World Television Championship, beating Lord Steven Regal, as he was using at the time. This was on an episode of WCW Monday Night Nitro in Jacksonville, Florida. Actually, this date was a Tuesday. They were recording it, or it was live on a Tuesday, I believe, due to some scheduling conflict with another sporting event happening at the time. Yeah, it was with the NBA. So they ended up recording this on a Tuesday, which was, having it on a Tuesday. And I picked this match because, I've especially been really fun lately of Monday Night Nitro. I think I undervalued. I haven't really watched a lot of Monday Night Nitro as an adult as much as I did as a kid. So now revisiting a lot of these matches and the scene in the 90s, especially with the cruiserweights, has been very fun for me. This wasn't for the Cruiserweight Championship. It was for the World Television Championship. But the match itself was a lot of fun, very quick, just within less than 10 minutes. But a lot happened in this match. This was also pretty big because Ultimo Dragon, he at this point was a face with the company. He had just parted ways with his manager, Sonny Ono, at the time when they were heels, and he's moved into a face role. So this championship reign as well, I think, was pretty big for his career because he was riding on a pretty big wave of popularity.
He was extremely popular at the time.
He was, and he was only in
WCW.
he was only in WCW for a few years, from 96 to 98. So this was right in the middle of his time there. He would only be TV champion for less than 30 days. He would then lose this to Alex Wright at Clash of the Champions on August 21st. So it was a very short reign, something that, of course, wasn't out of the ordinary for WCW in those days, especially for these kind of mid-card belts. But the match itself was great. I mean, Steven Regal, his character just flowed so well with Ultimo Dragon. And he lost using the Dragon Sleeper hold too. So that was a really fun move.
Very cool.
Yeah, and again, very quick match. Like, if you only have 10 minutes to watch anything, this is a really great quick match to watch. And there is some footage on This Week in Lucha, or This Day in Lucha History on luchacentral.com, has a clip of it, which is pretty much the majority of the match. So you can get a lot in such a short amount of time. But it's a fun time of revisiting some really good lucha libre presented to the U.S.
I need to go back and watch that because I don't remember this match very well. I remember the one where he lost it right after, which is why I made that groan.
I remember that too. Yeah. I was so disappointed as a kid.
I was super upset, very angry about that.
My first mask was Ultimo Dragon. I was a huge fan, and so anytime he'd lose, I'd take it personal.
When you're a kid, wrestling is very personal to you, which is why, when you grow up and you're still a wrestling fan as an adult, you know that you were a true fan. So.
Yeah. And then you have the calendar to look at stuff like this.
That's what's so cool. Yeah, kind of reliving all of it. I'm like you mentioned, Miranda, I'm going to go back and try to watch the last year of WCW now. I always stop at mid-99 because it's the same year I graduated high school, WCW ended, all at the same time. And it just felt like the end of an era for so many things in 2001, and so it was kind of poignant for me in a weird way to watch it because it brought up I remember that. I remember when we watched that, and stuff like that. So there's enough distance now that I'm going to watch the whole thing. I'm really excited about it, even though it's not going to be technically great. It'll
be ready for a journey.
Great.
be ready for a journey. You will feel things. Not all of them will be good, but you will feel many things.
Well, speaking about reliving things, Dusty, can you let our listeners know where they can find This Day in Lucha Libre?
Yes, it's at luchacentral.com. It's written every day by Pep Carrera. And he is just one of the best. He tells you just like it is, and he's got all the news and events. And be sure and check that out every day, again, at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for everything Lucha Libre.
And now a quick commercial from one of our partners, thechairshot.com.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always your head.
Now, we've been talking a lot about masks since the very beginning of this show, but Dusty has some information, some breaking news. Well, I don't know how breaking, but it's still pretty recent news on a luchador who has now their own online store.
Yeah, recently due to the pandemic and honestly just a lack of available dates. And also he just celebrated his 78th birthday last week, so he's, probably a little reticent to travel. But Lucha Libre legend Mil Mascaras has finally opened his own online shop at milmascarasoficial.com. Note that it's the Spanish spelling of official with only one F when you type it in. But he started selling autographed replicas of masks, T-shirts, hats, mugs, pretty much anything you'd expect from Mil Mascaras if you happen to catch him at a local show or a convention. His prices are quite evenly compared to his live appearances. Autographed masks are selling in the roughly $200 to $240 range, depending on the exchange rate and depending which mask you want. The website has a great layout. It's easy to check out all the masks and see if there's anything you want. I really hope this leads to a wave of luchadors to start their own websites so we can start supporting our favorites by buying merchandise from them, especially the masks. I would love to buy autographed masks, and there hasn't been a very clear avenue to do that through most luchadors. You kind of have to know somebody and then ask, and then you get it all worked out, and they work with a middleman. But if they had a website where you could get it worked out, type in what you wanted dedicated, your name or whatever on the mask, I think that it's only a huge benefit, and I hope that a lot more luchadors follow his lead on this, because I see so many masks and shirts I would love to buy from Mexico, but don't have a clear pathway to ordering them.
Right. And to a point you were kind of alluding to, a lot of luchadors don't like to sign third-party product
Exactly.
And Mil Mascaras is, in fact, one of those guys.
He won't, from what I understand. He will sign nothing third-party. Like, you have to buy it from him.
Having an arrangement like this where you can get stuff that he is endorsing means that you have that direct line. There's no question about it, because that is a thing that's in the fan community that we ask all the time, like, if I buy this, is so-and-so going to sign it? And, we have to do all that research all the time. And
a lot of times makers will ask you, are you buying this for yourself or are you buying it to get signed? Because they'll leave their tag off if it's fine to be signed. The maker won't want to be associated with making the mask for you.
Which I think is unfortunate, because makers deserve more credit too.
Oh, I agree. So they're the real artists out there. I mean, the things that some of these craftsmen are able to come up with, and the way they work together with the luchadors on what they want and their appearance and everything, they're invaluable to the entire Lucha Libre experience, and definitely deserve more name brand recognition and credit.
They can't all be Lince Dorado and make their own mask.
Yes, it's true. And even Lince doesn't have the time to make all of them anymore. He uses both Sancho Jr. and Jade masks occasionally when he's busy. Since the lockdown and everything, COVID, he's been having more time at home to work on things. But when he was touring and didn't have time, he used both Jade masks and Sancho Jr. And they really came out with some amazing stuff for him.
Oh, yeah. Very cool story. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was going to say, speaking of things that we've talked about earlier, we talked about ESPN Mexico. Through that, too, they had an article with highlighting, kind of one of the more popular luchadors in Mexico right now. Brendan, can you share more about that with us?
Well, yeah. So it popped up. Of course, the one person who doesn't read Spanish and has to rely on the Google Translate was the one that found it first. But, Mr. Iguana had an interview on ESPN Mexico, which again, back to what we were talking about earlier, fascinated me just because ESPN was doing it. But Mr. Iguana is a very up and coming indie guy who we talked about recently doing the tournament, the Lucha Fighter tournament that AAA was hosting. And he's got a very fun and interactive personality. He's got a little more appeal to the kids and the casual fans. So I was very excited to see that this sort of thing was happening. One of the bigger takeaways that we were discussing is that he was making plans to move to Mexico City before COVID hit. I don't know if he's still making those plans or not, but
I believe he is, according to the article, that he's later this year. That he still intends to move.
Excellent. And there were a couple other things on there. I don't. We were discussing this very quickly before we went on the air because it was a last minute addition. But did either of you have any other takeaways from this interview that you wanted to bring up? Because otherwise, it's just fun and cool.
Yeah, he mentioned a little bit that he was a friend and that he was kind of being compared to La Parka in terms of his appeal to kids and casuals, and that he really appreciated that because he was friends with La Parka too, Chuy La Parka, and that he was actually at the show where La Parka died. And so he thought that La Parka had the best energy and the best advice that anybody in wrestling could give you, and that he really wants to take that up and kind of, run with that. If he's the next Parka, he wants to serve his memory justice through it. Yeah, and I think that's incredible and poignant and so touching that, he really talked about what a great guy he was and that he hoped he could live up to be that guy.
And those are some big shoes to fill. Like that, a lot of people will remember the performer that is now L.A. Park, but La Parka too was so good at that comedy wrestling style while still being hardcore and flying and all of that it was just a treat to watch him.
He was great as Clarice La Momia too. I actually have one of those masks. I vividly remember that from being like a tween to teenager, because we got it on a satellite feed and it had no translation, and I vividly remember seeing the Mummy. And so I loved all that, and it's amazing how long his career was and how many different things he was great at, especially for being tied up in somebody else's gimmick, stepping into La Parka rather than his own thing. He was
which is a
fantastic.
Huge advantage Mr. Iguana is going to have, because I haven't seen a gimmick like that before, and I love it.
Oh, it's so unique and it stands out.
It's really funny. I liked how they talked or mentions about his education, that he has a degree in communications, and that during his time as a student is when he really became interested in lucha libre. That I thought, it's always interesting to hear those as far as how people get interested and involved in the sport. And to echo what Dusty said, just about he's very passionate about being an example for the youth, and the way that he's perceived by kids and families. So I thought that was just a very endearing, something that really just makes you root for him more and want to see him succeed.
Absolutely. I can say with fairly good certainty that there are a couple of matches of his that are floating around on Lucha Central. I personally was exposed to him at the Expo Lucha. So if
that's so cool.
If his matches from there are up there, those are great spots to start. But there are other matches of his definitely on Lucha Central. So if you're hearing this and you want to see this entertaining new guy because you haven't found much of the stuff yet, we've got you covered.
Yeah. And speaking of luchacentral.com, don't forget to follow them on Facebook. Follow the website on Facebook and Instagram at Lucha Central. There you're going to be able to find links to articles and news that's on luchacentral.com. Also, you can follow them on Twitter at luchacentralcom. So just make sure it's luchacentralcom on Twitter. It is just Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram. And as Brendan mentioned, of course, the YouTube page has a ton of video of Lucha Libre matches and interviews. But speaking of social media, gentlemen, I'm going to have to give the floor to you so you can let our listeners know where they can find you. Dusty, let us know where you're at on social media.
Yeah, I am Instagram.com/Dusty Murphy, @DustyMurphy. And Facebook.com/Dusty Murphy. I actually got quite a few friends this week from the podcast last week. So if you add me from the podcast, be sure to drop a note, say hello. Let me know that you're a listener. I appreciate it.
Okay. And Brendan, where can our listeners find you on social media?
I am on Instagram and Twitter. It's 321 T-shirt guy on both. I too would really like it if you found me on either of those places. Let me know where you found me so I know this is working and I'm not just talking to myself. But
I think it's working now. I had more friend requests last week than I have in a long time. Yeah.
You're talking to us too. We're here. Me and Dusty are here.
Well,
it's a three-way.
You're not on Twitter. I'm
that is also true.
That is also true. Yes.
That is fact. And as Brendan mentioned, I am not on Twitter, so Brendan is taking messages for me at 321 T-shirt guy. So if anyone needs to get a hold of me on Twitter, just let Brendan know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the #Miranda, spelled out. We are still accepting entries for our trio names. Brendan, do we have any updates as to any additional names that have been suggested to us?
Not this week. We have a little more radio silence this week, but I can feel the creative gears going.
Come on. Don't make me clap. I need people to participate. You could win a shirt if you... My syllables are getting all mixed up now. If you try hard enough. So feel free to let us know on YouTube or any of our social medias page. I mean, we are a trio, and what kind of Lucha Libre podcast would we be if we didn't have a trio's name? So please feel free to leave any suggestions. Your name could, your suggestion could be picked, and if that's the case, you may be able to win a T-shirt. So just let us know. But of course, not only let us know on social media, but don't forget, as you are listening to this show or any of the other shows on the Lucha Central Podcast Network, that you rate and subscribe, review. Let us know what you think of our shows. Feel free to provide feedback and just what are your thoughts on the show? Are there things that we should be covering? Are there things you would like for us to cover? We'd be happy to get that feedback. I'm Miranda Morales, and for Dusty and Brendan, thank you all for listening. We will be back next week, so make sure you tune in.